and then it's all yours, and I will just continue to put things in.
Okay, let me know when we're live.
That's my. You're on, Chief.
Okay. All right, welcome everyone to our Governance Council meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 4:06. And Blanca, could you go ahead and take roll call?
I sure will. Dr. Olmos,
Present.
Joel Hanson,
Here.
Derek Clark,
Here.
Courtney Porto,
Here.
Dr. Brooks,
Present.
and Phil Morales.
Here.
Everyone's in attendance.
Thank you, Blanca. Now, if we could look at the agenda and have an adoption of the agenda for today.
Phil, we need access to, you need to give us, make the link accessible to anyone that has the link, please. Or grant us access if you want.
To the agenda?
Yes.
That's the Epic app. I don't know where the agenda is.
Sorry, I didn't put it in there.
That's all right.
Come on. Just give me 1 sec.
I'm not able to do it, huh, Phil, because you're hosting.
If he's the owner of the Google Doc, he has to give the,
You have to give me
access.
permission on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just taking some time to load here.
Put the one from Board Docs if that helps.
Oh, can everyone click on that and see if that?
Let me know if that worked. I added it.
So Blanca, that link takes you just to Board Docs.
Oh, and it doesn't allow you to,
Well, from there, you have to go to the upper right-hand corner and click where it says Governing Board. The
There you go.
drop-down arrow, click on Opportunity Youth Academy
oh,
Council,
my apologies. I thought I did. Sorry about that.
Okay, I just
and
put
then
it in
click
the
on the
chat.
May 13th agenda.
Oh, there it is. Phil just sent it. Okay, thank you, Phil. You're right, Steve. I forgot to do that part.
And then I need to give you access.
yeah, we still don't have access to it.
No?
Well, the Board Docs is different. That should be on the
Sorry,
internet.
everybody. Oh my gosh. Sorry, everybody.
I did that one. I thought maybe that one will work.
So the agenda is in our email. Phil, is that the same one?
Yeah, it's the same one that's in your
Yeah.
email,
If
but
you go-
I'll give you access right now. It's
Okay.
just the computer is, I don't know why it's just taking so long to.
Blanca, and that one did the same thing. It just took you straight to Board Docs rather than to the agenda itself.
Okay, that's kind of strange because on my screen, I click on it and I go to, I went to like the main OIA. So it's featured on the county board.
Come on.
If you go straight to the board doc, it's posted on there, made live, but I guess when you click on it, it doesn't really allow you. That's interesting. Okay. I'm able to, but maybe from the outside, they're not able to.
It's from an email on the May 10th from Phil. You should be able to access it from your email. It's an attachment. All the attachments are on that email.
Right, right. Yeah. I was able to look at the agenda.
Okay. Who still needs it?
Okay, can I have a motion then to approve today's agenda? If everyone has seen it, or
Motion
is
to
everyone still
approve.
waiting to see it?
You have one motion to approve.
Uh,
Yeah.
Am I supposed to say I second, or can I just say I approve?
Okay, although we had a
All the
first,
above?
first and a second.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Okay, with the agenda's then approved. Okay, moving on to public comment, Phil. Do we have any comments from the public today?
Not at this time, Chief.
Okay, then we can move on to our consent action item, which is item 3, which is approval of our minutes for November 12th and February 11th. Again, consent is just one motion for both, for all items on the consent. Is there a motion? to
Were the
approve the minutes?
minutes up, were the minutes on our email?
Yes.
Yes, they were.
I'm not seeing it, but that's just me. Maybe let me go back to the message. There's 2 LCAP PDFs and 1 LCAP update, annual update PDF, along with the agenda. Oh, let's see. Oh, no, that's it.
Can you email out the minutes, Blanca, to the team?
Sorry, I just don't want to prove anything if I don't see.
No.
Didn't see it.
No, I'm actually pulling them up right now and I will attach them to an email to everyone.
Just include in the chat. I'm not sure if that will work though.
Hey, I can pull it up in the chat.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So those are the November 12th ones.
Yes. I motion for the approval of the minutes for November 12th.
We have a first, do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Derek. All those in favor of approving?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to information item. So at this point, Phil, we're going to be doing item 4A, which is annual update for developing the 21-22 local control and accountability plan.
Thank you, Dr. Ramos. Here we go. So I have a PowerPoint here that we're just going to look at the annual update, and then we will look at the actual document for the LCAP, and then the LO. Those are future items. So I do want to say thank you for taking the time to spend today. I apologize for the outage last 2 weeks, and I was just sharing with Dr. Ramos how we had another power outage about a half hour ago. So yeah, it was a bit crazy, but so our annual update this year. Here we go. Our annual update. So it's a little different this year in our annual update in that there's actually 3 sections in the annual update. It's a different format. And that's just because of kind of the unusual year that we've had. The 1920 LCAP really we never completed it, and it didn't do an annual update in 21-22 this year. Instead, we did have a learning continuity attendance plan that we used for 21-22. And so the annual update is really an update on both those two documents, and then just an overall analysis of 19-20 LCAP and a 21-22 LCAP. And then what are you using, or what did you find in those two updates that you're using to help form the 21-22 LCAP? So really, what is the function of the LCAP? Well, it's to reconcile planned goals and action services with the metrics, analysis of the overall implementation and effectiveness of the plan, and then is it informed development of the 21-22 LCAP. We had 3 goals in the LCAP this year. The first goal is all students participate in rigorous, relevant, and engaging instruction aligned to 21st century skills to eliminate barriers and promote achievement. We had several measurable outcomes under this particular goal, but I didn't want to go through every single one of them because there's many. I wanted to really just highlight the ones that we actually had data to provide. As you know, we didn't do an LPAC this year. We didn't, or rather last year, or even this year, and we didn't do the CASP. So there's really no data to provide in those areas, but these were certainly ones that I want to share with you. And also, these are annual measurable goals that you're going to see that we're using in the 21-22 LCAP. The first is always our benchmark. We use the STAR Renaissance. It's our benchmark for reading and math. We're still in those areas at 6th grade. That should be equivalent in math and reading, sorry, is 6th grade level. Our high school graduation rate in 18-19, it actually did increase by 8%, but then the newly released dashboard for 2019-2020, it actually decreased by 4.1%. And that really is a result of, well, we went into a pandemic. So many of our students didn't complete or didn't graduate on time. We were able to provide retroactive diplomas to 7 students, but those numbers were not included in this this data. So it still is at 29.7%. Reclassification of English learners, even though our LCAP, or I'm sorry, our LPAC scores for our students, we actually showed proficiency in about 45% showed at least not proficiency, but a growth in 1 level in the LPAC. We still reclass 0 students. And that simply is because many of our students, they didn't do well on the CASP or some of the local assessments that you need to reclass. If I'm moving too fast, just stop me and ask questions. That's fine. Our actions and services in that goal is our SciTech, and that is our core curriculum. We do use Eloquence curriculum for our EL students, and that is a supplemental curriculum that we use. And it is, our students are placed into, they're not courses because they don't receive credit, but they are placed into a content or course type in math and reading. And so it helps support the development of English proficiency, but it's not the only thing. So we also make sure that our teachers have professional development and that they're provided support so that they can work along with the student and the curriculum. We spend some time with working our multi-tiered systems of support. And this really became our UDL, so our IOSA with Inclusion Collaborative. It's our connection with Inclusion Collaborative. And so they provided some training in universal design for learning, and they'd spend actually a lot of time with our paraeducators, providing them training and getting them certified so that they can provide support in the classroom for our students, but also our teachers. And then create an intersession and after school schedule for teachers and students with disabilities to review targeted math and EL concepts and procedures. Now we did this virtually. As you know, all of our students were all online. So this wasn't a very difficult thing to do. Teachers had to help students in a virtual setting either through Zoom or Google Classroom. So we were able to continue to use those services. Our goal too is all our students will leave prepared for a successful transition to college and or career as a result of quality program services and curriculum. Again, I wanted to highlight just a few of the measurable outcomes because the other metrics are not, we didn't have any anything to report out. So the first was our student transition plans to post-secondary. We had about 35 seniors that actually completed a plan with the help of our college and career liaison. We want to increase that number. And so you're going to see this metrics in our LCAP 21-22. And then also our student success. This is actually through our resource link. Now the 75 students, it's actually more than that, but this was specifically for our 1920 population. So yes, so right now we are probably closer to maybe 150 students that have completed the needs assessment. So we're going to continue that work with Resource Link. And then college and career readiness is also an action service under this goal. So we were able to have 25 students enrolled in CTE courses. The problem is they didn't complete the actual process. So they were in a course, they've got experience, but they didn't complete the CTE pathway. We're able to 112 students complete our career labs, and that's our job training program. 27 students completed an internship with our San Jose Works program, and 20 dual enrolled students in community college or trade schools. So we're really happy about this, but again, we're still in a red indicator. So we want to really work a little harder on this action and support our students.
Phil,
Can I have
Yes.
oh, go ahead.
Phil, a quick question for you. Do you know how many of those students that enrolled in community college actually signed up for like EOPS? And the reason I'm asking is because I'm part of the Evergreen work group out there, and what they're putting an emphasis on is to reach out more to programs like OYA and the school systems to make sure that more of the students are getting enrolled in EOPS, because they're only been able to sign up the Asian students, like a lot of Latino and African American students are not like enrolling in the EOPS programs.
I don't have a number for that, Derek, but I certainly will note that and put it in somewhere in our LCAP 21-22, or make mention to our college and career liaison that is certainly a strategy or an activity that we want to push out to our students.
Phil, do
Yes.
you, for the certifications and the internships that you're doing, are you coding them so that CalPADS picks it up as one of the indicators in the CCI?
Not yet. No.
That'll move you out because what we're running into with the court-appointed schools and so forth is that there's not enough time to do completer, a concentrator and completer. The students, it's the nature of the students, the transient nature of the students, and the time period allowed to have a traditional 2-year course pathway. So the CDE hasn't caught up with alternative education.
Mm-hmm.
So doing stackable certifications and internships will help pull you out of, and getting it, make sure that it's coded though.
Yes, in our area system, correct.
Well, yeah, so CalPADS can pick it up.
Right, and so we just figured out in areas where we can actually do that. There is a place, and it's kind of, you have to kind of dig deep into areas to find it on where you can actually code that and put that information in. And we did find it, so it is there. Now it's a matter of making sure that when we are doing, or a student is doing an internship or completing some certifications, that our counselor is going back in and actually putting that information in. Good. And then our goal 2 services is Naviance. So we want to continue to use.
Phil, sorry, I have a question on
Courtney,
the
that's
previous
okay.
slide.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense why the students weren't able to complete the courses? I mean, was this like when the pandemic hit and it just was the next thing? I'm sure there's various reasons, but any sense of that?
Well, I think and something that I think Joelle had kind of mentioned is one, so SciTech, the courses in SciTech are introduction. So the completer courses in now have to be done. They're not offered in SciTech, so they either have to go to community college to complete the concentrator and the capstone courses, which then becomes kind of difficult for them to do that. So SciTech doesn't have those pathways fully built out.
Got it. Okay,
That
good
makes
to know.
sense.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think at this point is more of we want to get our students experience taking those level of courses.
Mhm.
But the plan is that we do build out a pathway so that students that are taking those intro courses in SciTech, we're connecting them into the concentrator and the capstone courses at community college. And we're
Mhm.
working with actually San Jose City to work on that right now.
Nice, that's exciting.
Hey, Phil, hey, did you get any feedback on, because it seems the career labs were very like successful. Was there like a reason why that the students liked it so much?
I think that it's a lot of it is because one, they like the cohort feel. So they're in a classroom, they're with their colleagues, or with their peers rather. Two, I think because, well, they get a nice stipend at the end of that. I think that's always an incentive for our students. Three, I honestly do think it's also the facilitator and the interaction that the facilitator has with our students, and it's really focused on job training. It's focused on self-reflection. I think our students really enjoy that, and it's become a very popular experience for students. Also because it went to a kind of a virtual environment or setting rather, it really does fit the flexibility of our students. So some of them, they wanted to do career labs, but they just couldn't come to a site to do it. Having it kind of through Zoom, now they could do it at home. It was not so much of a burden to actually go to a site. So that was also very helpful. So we want to continue to use Naviance as our college and career curriculum. Specifically Naviance, we're starting to use our academic planner and transition tools. So that is the next phase of Naviance. Our college and career liaison position, continue to have that. That's been such an important piece to the many of our students that are going into community college and the dual enrollment, or even that are continuing, our graduates that are continuing in community college and beyond. So having our college and career liaison present to support them. And then of course our Europe and career labs that we're working on the contract for next year for additional four labs. And then our goal 3 is our partnership with community organizations. This is our engagement, student engagement, parent community engagement. A little harder this year on this particular goal, simply because we all went to kind of a virtual setting. What I could point out is that our student suspension is still in the green, which is good. We don't suspend students, so we want to maintain that. And then our efforts to seek input and parent participation. Actually, we've had a pretty good school site council group of parents that have been involved with us, that have been involved in our school site council and have been kind of consistent. So we're very happy about that. And that's where we do get most of our input from parents and students. But we're looking at how do we also engage them outside of these meetings. Our learning and continuity plan. So I'm going to stop there. Any questions about the 1920 LCAP annual? It's pretty straightforward, but.
I just have a question in terms of like big picture process for today's meeting. So is the plan, you're providing us updates on last year's outcomes.
Right.
And then do you use, sorry if other folks know this, I'm new to this process. Do you then use this information to like create the plan for the next year? And are we going to be talking about that today?
Yes. So the next, after I finish with this, then we will, I don't know, Dr. Almos, how you want to do it. If there's then a break, or we can then move into the LCAP itself, and we'll look at that plan on where it is. And I can then kind of give an overview of that, and then really want to take you through the goals and the action steps that we have put together based on staff meetings, parent meetings, LCAP survey, this group here, and of course the annual update and what we've learned from the annual update to help form the LCAP where it's at currently. But certainly we want to, more input is better. And so that we can then get to a place where we feel this LCAP really represents the work that we're trying to accomplish, but it's also going to help us drive that work as well.
Thank you. That's helpful for my brain.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Courtney, just add to that again. So what item A is right now, we're just reviewing our 1920 LCAP. So it seems like so long ago, but that's a requirement by the state that we actually have to do that for our LCAP. So we actually have to go back to 1920, which was the last year we wrote an LCAP to do the update, the annual update. Then this year for 2021, we didn't do an LCAP, we did a learning continuity plan. And so now Phil's going to do the overview of how we did this year, some of the successes and challenges we had in 2021. And then item B on the agenda will then be looking at our 21-22 LCAP and what we learned over the last 2 years and how we're going to proceed into the future.
Thank you, Dr. Ramos. So in our learning continuity plan, it was actually we used what we were doing in 1920 to answer some of the areas in the learning continuity plan. So it's specifically in-person instructional offerings. You would see here that there would have been a transition from in-classroom to more of an online learning platform. Well, because OYA is online learning, the in-person instructional offerings, again, if we were in class, it would still be online. So what we wanted to focus on for in-person instructional offerings was how do we take that college and career liaison supports in those areas and make it kind of more of a virtual, continuing that support virtually. And so we were able to do that by, again, offering Zoom meetings, doing some group work through Google Classroom, just becoming more accessible virtually. And then we wanted to be sure that when we did return to in-person, we wanted to make sure that we had the safety equipment and the PPE in place for our students. Again, the curriculum is all online, so it wasn't much of a transition for us. In terms of distance learning program, what we did notice is that once we actually went into the pandemic, our attendance dropped a bit. And that was simply because our students didn't have the tech devices that they needed. So we purchased the tech devices, the hotspots, we were able to get it out to our students. And we saw then a kind of a return to our enrollment and our participation. The pupil learning loss, again, same thing. It was because of our curriculum was all online. We didn't see much of a learning loss in that regard, but it was more about technology and having access to the curriculum and then to our teachers as well. Our mental health and social emotional well-being. So we saw that there was definitely a need of mental health services. So we had one mental therapist, a full-time therapist that was working with OYA. So we found that there was a need to bring on a second therapist, but as part-time. So what our therapists did is they did some work around trauma-informed school environment for our staff, mindfulness, reducing stress and anxiety, providing some yoga practices that would help support not just students, but also the staff, because we all felt that we were kind of going through this transition, and we did. And so it was very helpful to have them kind of help support us. Most of our family engagement and pupil outreach was through our social media, Remind, Zoom, Google Classroom, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Now that we're seeing facilities starting to open up a little more, for example, like Conexión, we're starting to see now more services being provided. So we're able to get kind of more of our parents back coming through Conexión for food distribution and some other opportunities. But for the most part, we used our social media to connect with our families and students. Social nutrition. Now, we didn't do initially food service to our students. So we wanted to be sure we gave them resources and where could they go pick up meals and those types of services. But through our navigators and collaboration with Second Harvest, they started to do a monthly food distribution here at Snell, which has been hugely successful and now are serving 40, 50 student families at Snell. And then they're also transporting or delivering food up to Gilroy. And that's all I have for now on that. Any questions? Yes.
I'm trying to kind of figure out, so this was sort of the year overview for the previous year prior to COVID, going into this year now, which we're going to look at, because I do have some questions about the goals.
Yes, okay.
I'm looking at the LCAP annual report that you sent I wasn't really going off of the slides. I was looking more into the weeds of the report.
Yes.
So Joelle, so again, this item A was just on our 1920 overview.
Right.
So we're going back in history right now.
Right.
So now our next item is going to be our 2021 LCAP, which is going to be our goals going into the coming year and the actions and services provided.
Okay.
So those questions, right now, right now the questions really are kind of historical in nature,
Yeah.
rather than now going forward on item B, which we'll be doing.
But should we use the goals to the goals for the previous historical nature and then compare them to the goals now?
Well, some of the goals have changed, and action services have changed going into 21, 22.
Okay.
So that, and I appreciate the questions, Joelle, because I think what's great about this year's LCAP is that it is kind of it's a fresh cycle. So it's a new cycle. So not necessarily all of the goals and actions that were in the former LCAP transition over to this new one. However, there are some that I felt and discussed that should be included in this particular LCAP.
So Phil, let's go ahead and go to item B, which is our 21, 22 LCAP.
I'm so sorry. Off I go.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay. So this is so I'm not going to go through the general information, the reflection, the identified needs, unless you want me to. It's a lot of information, and I've sent you the document, and if I can, but I like to get down to the goals and actions, if that's okay, because I think that really is kind of the meat of the document. So one of the things I do want to say before we get into this is I wanted to be sure that the goals in the LCAP are tied to the WASC action plan that we just had, and also to the recommendations that are in the charter petition that we just renewed. So if you look at the charter petition recommendation, you look at the WASC action plan, and you look at these goals, they're all aligned. And so the reason why we want to do that is because this document is supporting the WASC and the charter petition. And so I wanted that. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So the first goal is about our academic plan. It's our academic goal. And so in this, what we'll see is some of the measuring or the metrics. I focused on our STAR. So still using our STAR. The baseline is 6th grade, but we want to get that increased up to at least 9th grade. Sorry. Smarter Balance Assessment, which is our CASP. That's our CASP assessment. Again, in ELA and math. I'm basing this baseline on what we had the last met and exceeded proficiency is 13.21, but we wanted, and again, these are 3 years out. So we want to, go ahead.
I was just wondering why you're I don't know. I remember doing WASC many times, and a 1% annual increase is pretty minimal. Like, I'm not quite sure if you're going to get to a 9th grade proficiency with a 6th grade equivalency if you have a 1% increase in the assessment, the STAR reading assessment.
Well, and I think that's just because we're trying to get, I mean, I don't know if we will get any higher than that initially, because we have a lot of work to do to get our students to, one, take the assessment consistently, and then making sure that then we are looking at, well, what are those scores and how are we helping? Now, I mean, I'd like to get it higher, obviously. I guess I don't know if I want to go, I mean, we could certainly be aggressive and go higher.
Because you can always, on your year 2 outcome, you have time to reflect and look at what was the percentage increase. If you didn't meet the goal, let's say you do a 5%, because if you want them to get, I'm assuming in 3 years, you want them to get from the 6th grade to the 9th grade equivalency. So you're going to have to map out realistically, what percentage increase would that need to be? 3% is not going to increase in 3 years, grade 6 to grade 9. I just don't think what I'm trying to say is that I don't think it jars with, I just want you to be successful in setting up a goal and a benchmark
Right.
that's going to get you there. And if in the interim, you're not meeting those benchmark percentage increases, at, like, let's say you go into year 2 and you only did a 4% increase in the 5, that at least gives you some data on, okay, why was that? And how are we going to, tweak it to, what is it that we need to do? Why was there? But I guess most people come in will say, make the benchmark higher to achieve the goal in 3 years. I'm not sure if a 3%, I could be wrong, but it doesn't sound like a 3% increase is going to raise the grade three whole grade levels in the reading assessment.
So what would you recommend?
I'd have to look at, I couldn't do it right now without looking at the STAR. I mean, I'm familiar with STAR reading because we used that for the zone, approximal reading zone for independent reading. But I'd have to look at, what would, I'm sure there's something in the STAR reading system that can show you at what level of increase per year would you need to get to by the 9th grade. I know you're paying a lot of money for STAR, so they've got representatives that can probably map that out, but they may even have assessment programs in there for you. It's a pretty, if you're buying the whole big assessment piece, the Renaissance STAR program, it's hugely robust. So I don't know which part of the program you have, but it's a great program, Phil. It's an awesome program. I believe in it. It really works.
No, and I agree. And I think that is, yes, I agree. So I can go back and I will look at.
So Phil, one thing here, since you are looking at a grade equivalency rather than a percentage, which usually that's what you have when you look at your state testing, you might want to look at increasing it by grade levels instead. If your 3-year goal, you want to be at 9th grade level, year 1, it should be everyone should be on average of 7th grade, then 8th grade, then 9th grade. That might work out better than a percentage, because I'm not sure how you're going to measure a percentage of 6th grade.
So then so the desired outcome, but I don't think you put in the 1, 2, so somewhere I would need to indicate that, correct? So this is a weird one because I don't know where you would put that.
Well, unless... It could be that you, rather than saying all students, which that's a difficult benchmark, right? So you might want to do the percentage of students who raise their grade equivalency. I mean, might want to break it down a little bit. to the percentage of students that are going to raise their grade equivalency 1 year in year 1. And then continue that and then add on another percentage of students that will raise their grade 1 year in year 2. And then continue the same thing and then add on another percentage. Do you see what I'm saying? So that
Right,
it's
yeah.
growing the cohort along with, right? Because just to say 100%, is not, that's not a realistic goal, right? But when you want to show growth, so realistically, what percentage of students do you want to see raise their grade equivalency at least 1 grade level year 1? At what percentage of students, raising the grade equivalency year 2 for 1 year? So you just kind of, that's the way that I would do it, is increase the number of the percentage of students that are raising their grade level equivalency 1 year each year.
But that would be based on cohorts, correct?
Not necessarily, not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, when you disaggregate the data, you're going to want to look at the cohorts anyways to see if there's a particular trend, because it could be a curriculum, it could be, whatever it is, whatever the trend is. But overall, you could do the percentage of overall students raising their grade equivalency. Especially if you have mixed grades,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Mixed ages in one cohort.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take so much time with that, but I just want you to be really,
No, I appreciate that, because this is always the hardest one, is particularly with the STAR assessment. Okay. I will look at breaking this down even more and then sending you kind of an update so you can take a look at it. Is that all right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Same with our CASP and our, so I have the matrix here for our CASP math and reading, our math and ELA. Our credits earned. So we want to make sure that, and this is even harder because of our long-term students. So what is long-term? We have students that are kind of in and out. So we're trying to identify a group that we can actually track, which becomes very difficult because all of our students are coming in at different points in the year with different amounts of credits that they need. So this is another, I think, metrics that we want to include, but need to kind of flesh that out a little more. And then this is this is a math and reading assessment specific to our special needs students. And we would be using RenStar, and I haven't put that out yet.
So is it that you want to increase the credits earned by the long-term students, or you want to increase the number of long-term students that stay consistently within the program to achieve X amount of units?
No, this is to measure the number of credits for long-term students.
These are the ones that come in and out of the program, you're saying?
Right, so we want,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, got it.
And then some of the action items, I don't know why it does this, is one, certainly is to continue to use our RenStar. We're going to continue our work with our Universal Design for Learning, with our Inclusion Collaborative. And the reason why these are no cost is because in this particular goal, we have this action item in 2 separate goals. One is for here, and the other one is under the next goal, which is English learners. And so I put it out 0 here because it's just one cost. But I wanted to specifically say that they will be working also with help support this particular goal. I can always split the cost and say, but it's not billed that way to us. Our professional learning community, our PLC. So basically there's a no cost here as well, but this is a practice that we will be doing that will support our English learners, our foster youth, not just all of our students, but certainly we'll be supporting our English learners, our foster youth, our low-income students along, and then also with our individual learning plan advisory. So these are the quarter meetings that we have built in for next year that are, again, no cost because it's part of what we already do, but it's very important to put it in this part to show that we're also supporting through this work, our foster youth and our low-income and our English learners. Move on.
I just put that again, look at that increase. Think about the percentage of increase as just a measurement to get to the actual goal. So what is it that you want the actual goal to be? If it's a percentage of students to meet or exceed the standard, then you need to look at currently what's your baseline data, and then how many do you want to get to that standard?
Right.
So is 2% going to get you to that goal, that ultimate goal? Or is that underrepresenting the amount of percentage increase that you need? That, just review it. You could be right. I just don't know.
Yep. Okay. Our goal 2, this is a specific.
Sorry, Phil.
That's okay.
I wasn't sure if we were going on to goal 2 yet. So back to goal 1.
Yes.
I really love this goal. And I'm just curious how you all are thinking about defining 21st century skills. I've heard it used in different ways. And so oftentimes I've seen it used as like soft skills. And I just don't see anything that would relate to those kinds of skills in the I don't know, the language, the metrics, the actions. To me, these are all academic skills. And so I don't know if a distinction needs to be made there.
Okay.
If you are going to include 21st century skills, you could think about some cool ways to incorporate how you would measure those. But then you might have to like define what skills and, how to do all that. So, I think it's important to be in the goal, but it throws me off a little bit when I'm looking at the metrics. Unless you're just defining 21st century skills in a way that I don't understand.
No, I think that's a great question. And so you're right. I don't think it is defined in the metrics that are here. And I'm not sure how we would define it or even measure it.
It can be embedded, Phil. Usually the 21st century skills are embedded within curriculum. So you could probably do that through when you're looking at the instructional materials and the curriculum, that those skills are embedded in that rigorous curriculum, that relevant curriculum that you're talking about.
Right.
Usually those skills are embedded within it. But you're right, Courtney, there's going to be some kind of measurement probably to see. And the measurement might be lesson plans, the curriculum, units, that kind of thing that's embedded within it. That's usually how it works, rather than a separate curriculum.
Okay.
And just one more question on this. It says eliminate barriers and promote achievement. I'm just curious, what kind of barriers are you speaking to? Is it academic or both academic and barriers to, accessing post-secondary education, barriers to?
Yes, it would be all of, yes. So,
okay.
Yes. And I can, in the explanation of why the LA has developed this goal, I can certainly put in that place, kind of define that out a little more.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I see that.
So I could actually include, particularly even the 21st century skills, the barriers, and define it here in this place here. I did add explanation regarding our SPED support, because if you notice, it's not really defined in here what support we would be giving other than measuring them, but that's still, okay, that doesn't give us a whole lot. Okay, move on to the number 2 goal. All right, and so increase, this is a very specific goal, and this is actually a result of, again, our WASC plan, action plan, and also the recommendation that was in our charter. We felt that there is a true need to help our English learners. We're about 20%, I believe, is where we're at roughly with our English learners. And so we feel that there is an important need to support them. So 3 measures. Certainly one is our English language learners to continue supporting our students because they're doing well on the LPAC. So we want to continue to support that growth. A reclass is 0, and because that's really where we're starting from. We have no students to reclass. This 1% can certainly go up. We can change that. But we have to consider, again, it's based on not only the LPAC, it's also based on those local measures, the caps. So having to help our students be successful in those areas to reclass. So we want to just go ahead.
Well, that means that then you want to make sure that the percentage, because I think I'm right, the LPAC also can include local metrics to reclassify along with the LPAC score. And I'm not sure if they changed it with the SBAC, especially since we didn't have SBAC last year.
Yeah.
So you may be able to get around that. You'd have to talk to the Title III people about, local like writing samples and things like that, where the teacher checks off that they have met that criteria for reclassification. They may have changed that, but that's one way to do reclassification. And then the percentage of increase in SBAC should mirror what the percentage of increase probably in the reclassification. So if you want X percentage of students, meeting standards, then you probably want to do sort of the same or similar. Otherwise, it's going to look like you are lowballing the EL kids. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, those local assessments, I believe, in our master EL plan, I think it is the Renaissance Star. That's what it's in there, but I'll go back and take a look to see what other.
There's a writing piece, I believe, that they have to do a certain. So maybe the Renaissance, I think it does have writing in there. But
it does. I believe it does. Yeah. And so that's why there is also a measurement here, and that we would be using STAR.
Mm-hmm.
We want to continue to support. I keep doing that. Use our Eloquent supplemental curriculum. I think that is important to continue to use that supplemental. In the meantime, I think we do need to look for a ELD core curriculum. We don't have that core curriculum through SciTech, so we have to look at where we can. I do know AED has an ELD core curriculum that we have used in the past, at least that's what I understand. So we'll go back and revisit that and potentially look at what they're using.
Doesn't Title III require you to have a curriculum, all of the curriculum where the EL students they should be mainstreamed, and that there's some kind of supplemental?
Here's a supplemental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, they have a supplemental?
Well, the Eloquence is the supplemental.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
And then with the Eloquence supplemental curriculum, the professional development, this will be provided by some of our, through either Eloquence, SciTech, or our Universal Design for Learning folks. And then we want to also make sure that we're also providing some specific tutoring opportunities for our students with English learners, our English learner students rather. And this would be provided by our staff, other in extended hours or on other opportunities. And we haven't really quite planned that out yet. Good.
So I'm just curious, do you know off the top of your head how many of your students are English learner students?
We are Blanca, can you pull that up for me? I couldn't say it off. I said 20%. It might be lower than that. I don't know, but if you could pull that up for me, Blanca. I know it's our EL and our SPED are actually the two largest groups.
And they're duplicated.
And they're
probably.
duplicated, correct?
Do you want a combination of both the EL and the SPED or just?
I think just the EL is what Courtney asked.
Okay, I'll get that up give me a minute or two.
Because the quandary with duplicated students is, do you focus on EL or SPED? Because they're two different program focus and curriculum, two different curriculum.
Correct. Can I move on to goal 3? Okay, so this is specific to our college and career readiness. And so we wanted to be sure that we put in here the number of students that are having secondary plans, which is through Naviance, our students that are enrolled in and completing dual enrollment at our community college. The A through G students taking A through G courses, passing advanced placement. Unfortunately, our students we don't have the students that will go through or take those exams. Our EAP, sorry if it moved it too fast. So students that are actually, percentage of students that demonstrate college preparedness through taking that EAP on the CASP, which is mainly our 11th graders. And then a percentage of students that are doing an exit survey, which we do have an exit survey in Naviance that we will push out. Before we did it pencil and paper, but we want to be sure that we're surveying our students on how we're doing in all of these areas. Yep.
I had a question about, because it was back to the work that the Inclusion Collaborative is doing with UDL, but
Yes.
the majority of the curriculum online, because how do you do UDL when you have online curriculum it's pretty, standardized and cookie cutter. I'm just trying to kind of mirror the, because you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, yes. So UDL, so basically the team would come in and what they do is that they look at the curriculum that's online, and then they help our paras first, our teachers next, to come up with the strategies, UDL strategies that would help students or help them support students access some of that content or material on the online. That could be supplemental material that they would find and use to help support math and reading. So that is what they're doing currently, the UDL trainers with our staff. Does that help? Does that answer a little bit?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was if there was a hybrid, if it's because UDL is also an instructional strategy or tool, right? So you're
Correct.
creating lessons around universal design learning.
Correct.
But if the lessons are already pre-done online and and the students are independently learning, then your focus, I guess, is more of how are the teachers going to support the students in their online learning through UDL strategies and pulling them, are they going to be pulling them aside and working with them in groups? Are they going to be, how?
Cohorts. So when we started to work with UDL, it was pre-pandemic. So we were working with teachers were forming small groups and cohorts of students, particularly around math and reading or math and English. So UDL was working with our paras and our teachers to support those groups. So how, that providing them those UDL strategies to work with those small groups. Transitioning to kind of an online, yes, that I don't know how they were going to do that piece. I don't know if they've come up with a kind of a hybrid model to help support. That's something we'll have to talk about with Kathy.
Well, I'm just trying to tie in the UDL support you're doing with what you're looking at right now with the graduation rates, the AP rates, blah, 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 right? So just tying in how UDL is going to help support the students to achieve those goals, right?
Right.
Is that what I was just trying to find the connection between the two. Because I think it's powerful. I think UDL can be really a powerful tool in the implementation if it aligns with, what they're really doing.
Well, the UDL is not supporting this particular goal. It's supporting more of the academic achievement goals.
Well, except that when you're talking about needing to meet A through G and AP classes and EPA preparedness, that is academic. I mean, that's all embedded in academics, right? So if the
Right.
students are successful in their academics, then conceivably they'll be successful here. So UDL should also help with this, I would think.
I would hope, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if when you see something and it's just, and I get the nature of the student, 0% students meet A through G or 0, but you've got a lot of 0% there.
Mhm.
And then you've got in 3 years, 100% will complete post-secondary, or 10 students annually will complete a course at a community college or trade school.
Mhm.
That course, if they only do one, will not get you on the CCI. You actually need 2. You need a certain amount of quarter units to be prepared on the
Mhm.
CCI.
Mhm.
So I just want to make sure that, if the goal is to be prepared in the CCI, right? Is that the goal? Or no?
Transition. No, it's not.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
never
transition.
mind. I'll shut
Yeah.
up now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, I appreciate it. I think it's right. So position, college and career position, to continue to support that position, continue to support our Naviance and fully implement Naviance. What we did so far was to implement kind of just the Strengths Finder, a career cluster. Fully implement would be using those tasks, but also using the academic planner, the transition planner, the college and career exploration, Road Nation, some of those things. So we want to fully implement that next year. Continue to use our Grads for Life contract, which is our career labs. Continue to use our ConnectEd. We're doing some great work with ConnectEd in developing our ICT and health pathways. Those are fully actually built out. The next step to that is now working on our work-based learning plan, pulling in some of the internships, building an advisory committee. So they're starting to kind of work us towards that part of our development and implementation. And then San Jose Works program, certainly again, wanting to utilize their services. What we're thinking of doing with San Jose Works is actually doing a summer program that they would provide some basic job training skills in the summer. And then in the fall, actually providing a second internship for students in specific industries. If they were interested in health, if they were interested in ICT, that then the students that came out of that first summer program could continue on into a specific internship with all of the skills that they were able to use or learn in the summer. Can I move
So
on?
I put the answer to that in the chat, Courtney,
Okay, thank you.
86. He asked it.
That's 86 of how many students do you have right now?
340.
Oh, wow. And then what is CCI, Joelle?
Those are that's on the dashboard, which we're all ranked from the state of California, is the college and career indicator, which are the things that Phil was going over in terms of AP, dual enrollment, the CAST tests, all of those things mark where your students are at. And if you're in the red, differentiated insistence, it's because you're not moving students. Part of it is the CCI indicator. So working on those things that Phil was talking about will help them move forward in college and career readiness.
Okay. I am curious if there are other things on the CCI that could, measure preparedness in another way beyond academic. And is there a way to incorporate some of those in your metrics? Because, you know, when I look at the metrics that are listed for goal 3, thank you. You know, having a post-secondary plan, super, super important. But having a plan and being prepared to act on that plan, you know, are often two different things. And so I don't know what it would be. I don't know what else is on the CCI, but is there anything, you know, around
internships, pre-apprenticeships, some industry recognized certifications? Those will all help, especially DAS schools, which are your special ed schools and your alternative education schools, be prepared in the CCI. CTE completion doesn't require, like, so if you have a CTE pathway like the completers, it's CASP, but only like one has to be met and one can be almost met. So you can get a 3 or a 2 and a 3, either math, English, either or. And then you have to have a completer for CTE, and then you meet that MET college and career indicator. So that's one way. You can get 3s on both math and English. That's another way. You can have 2 AP courses to meet. One is getting there. 2 is that's another way. You can have the certifications, the industry recognized, that the state of California, and Steve, you said Safe Serve is going to be one of them. And I'm not sure what the other, I have a meeting next week with the CCESA CTE to see what the other ones are. And then apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship and internships most definitely do. So whatever they do in internships, Phil, you just need to make sure that they code it in the work-based learning piece on Aries that matches the code for CalPADS. It's correct. Scoring weird.
Yeah. Okay. So that's helpful. And I see how these other metrics now like fit into that concept of preparedness. I wonder, like, and this is like maybe going back to the 21st century skills part of goal 1 is like, are there ways to measure that, or is it assumed that those skills are embedded in the internships, in the, you know, CTE courses, or are there ways to, you know, measure those things outside of participation in those activities? My question making sense?
I think they're embedded in everything that you said. I'm not sure how we would we want to specifically develop a matrix to measure that.
Well, you could do, I mean, it depends on what your curriculum is. So some of the things that, and not so much on the CCI, but just giving students tangible things when they're done that shows them that they have these 21st century skills. So things like Office Suite, Excel, Adobe, those kinds of things are 21st century skills, but it's technology that translates the transferable skills no matter what career they go in.
Yeah.
And you can get certified in those and can be embedded in, and they're all online courses, that you can get those kinds of certifications, which maybe won't show up on the CCI, but certainly would be a tangible thing that Phil could use as a metrics for what you're talking about, but also showing those post-secondary transfer skills that can lead to career readiness.
Yeah.
Like, you know, have a portfolio that they can show. I've got, and so I'm going to be, you know, the front of the line in a job when I leave.
Yeah,
and I think sorry, go ahead, Phil.
No, and we do have in our work-based learning plan we have those activities in the plan. I'm just not sure if it's something that we would want to put in the LCAP. I just think that would be more than, but I mean, I'll write, I've noted it.
You know better than I do where things belong. I don't know. Again, I'm very new to all this. I think, Joel, you helped me get to what the point I'm trying to make is just for me in this plan, what I'm missing is seeing something where you can measure some of those 21st century skills and some of the soft skills that we know young adults, just from research that we've done, young adults, particularly students that you serve at OYA, are really deficient in a lot of those soft skills that we know they need to thrive in education beyond high school. And without a way to measure that, I know it's happening. I know it's happening at your school. I know it's happening with your teachers and your paras.
Right.
But it's a tricky thing to measure. I mean,
Right,
we did
and-
find a really good survey, but I don't know if you want to add another survey into the
Right.
mix. I know your
And-
students already over surveyed. But that's just something that I'm feeling like is missing, but I know it's elsewhere and I know it's happening.
And it doesn't, and also think about that the LCAP, everything that's in here doesn't mean that this is all we're going to do. There's also other things that may not be in the LCAP.
The single plan, you can put that in the single.
Right.
plan, Bill.
Right. So but even if it doesn't go in the single plan, it's still something that we would say, yeah, this is something we want to
Mhm.
measure in this way. And maybe if we do get enough, or we do feel it's valuable, which it would be, it could find its way into the next cycle or into the single plan, which
Mhm.
is done every year.
Okay. Thank you all. That's helpful.
Of
Thanks for
course.
getting me up to speed.
And then I just real quick, because I know we have about 10 minutes left. This is the engagement with our students and parents and our community. Here's where we have our school attendance rate, our high school dropout percentage or number, our high school graduation rate, our student suspension rates, our Healthy Kids surveys. I wanted to be sure we included that since we started this will be our second year of doing it. Our LCAP surveys, our parent participation in, again, wanting to increase representation on our ELAC, our school site council, and other committees. Here in our actions, we wanted to make sure that we're still supporting our therapy travels, our mental health providers, our community and parent engagement. So we do have specific funds to support family nights, engagement nights. Since we're getting kind of back to a reopen, we want to start kind of using or having some opportunities to meet with parents, doing not big events, but certainly some in-person events if we can. Also, we are funding a foster youth service manager specifically that is helping or being the liaison for foster youth services and OYA. So they're a great advocate to have. And then in here, I also wanted to be sure we indicated our resource link, because this is a huge tool. It's an action I think we continue to use to track the needs of our students, identify students who, yes, Joelle, I'll answer that question right now. But certainly I wanted to make sure that this is an action that is there. And even though there's no funding attached to it, it definitely is important to support our foster youth, our EL, and our low income. Good. And then the learning loss money. So we do, yeah, that's the expanded learning grant that you're talking about. Yes. And so, okay, I'm going to stop because the next item is the ELO, and I just have a real quick presentation for that. Is there any more questions about the LCAP? I will do some edits to it and get it out to you so you can take a look at it again and then provide feedback. This particular LCAP will go for public hearing June 10th, and then adoption June 17th. Any more thoughts, Dr. Ramos? Anything to add to that?
So we are running short on time. I know this is pretty quick to go through the LCAP. As Phil mentioned, we will be taking it for public hearing June 10th with Dr. Dewan, and then it goes to approval after that. But one thing to consider, and you can put it in the chat, is if this governance council would like to meet one more time before that June 10th public hearing for some more input and review of the LCAP. So if you'd like that, go ahead and put it in the chat, and then we can look for a date. Okay, Phil, let's go ahead and go on then to item C, which is the school plan for student achievement.
Right. So the ELO grant is we get 147,000. That's the fund. So it's a very
No. Item C is school plan for student achievement.
Oh, so the school plan for student achievement. So it's basically, and again, it's taking what we did in the LCAP and it's mirroring what the school plan for student achievement is mirroring what we did in the LCAP. So all of the same goals, the same action items is what is in the SIPSA as well. So I didn't want to go through that in great detail because again, it is just a mirror of the LCAP.
Phil, could you just tell the council the difference in funding streams, however?
At least in the SIPSA, it's really accounting for the title funding. So your Title I, your Title III, and your CSI money that we receive. That is what we would then put in the LCAP and then would have to go to school site council for approval. So that really is, it really does just look at the funding, the federal funding that we receive and how we're spending that to support the goals.
Okay, any questions on the SIPSA? Okay, Phil, we have about 8 minutes left. So go ahead and go to item D, which is our expanded learning opportunity grant.
Yeah. So the expanded learning opportunity grant, and it is funding that we received. It's about $147,000 that we would spend in certain areas. Sorry, Al. So here is the template that we have started to work on. It's not completely done, but these are the areas that we would use or we would need to look at spending the dollars in. So it's either extended instructional learning time, accelerated progress to close learning gaps, integrated student supports and address other barriers to learning, community learning hubs, support for credit deficient students, additional academic service for students, training for school staff and strategies addressing social and emotional. So what we started to do is we put together a team of teachers and staff to work with Rhonda Beasley, who is part of the assessment and accountability team from the COE, to really start thinking about, well, how do we really want to use this money to support our students? So what we did is we did what we call a jam board, and we're still meeting to talk a little bit about some of the ideas. This is the first thing that we started to do, is kind of put up some stickers on potential focus areas. What do you think we would need to use this money? And we then kind of broke it down to specific focus areas. How do we support? Is this an idea to support our English learners? Is it to do social emotional support, increase graduation rate, students with disabilities? That was not something that our team thought we really needed to use this money to focus on, and college and career readiness. So at the end, we said that we really felt that this was important to us. And so now the next step is, okay, what is that going to look like? Is it an extended day? Is it a summer program? Is it a weekend program? And what specifically are we going to do? So we made sure, we wanted to say that first we want to make sure that we assess them. So we would want to do a pre-math and reading assessment. And then at that point determine, okay, what interventions or strategies do we want to use to help these students? And then how do we assess them along the way? So that's kind of where we're at with this. The money will primarily be used to pay for extra time, not necessarily for materials, because that would then that's all included in our SciTech and all the materials that we currently have. So that's kind of where we stand with the ELO. Any thoughts, questions? Nope. Okay. That's all I have, Dr. Amos.
Any questions on that ELO plan? Again, we do have about $150,000. Phil, is that the 147? Does that include the earmarked revenue that needs to be spent on specifically on Paris?
Yes, it is. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we do have about $150,000. It's not a lot of money really when you look at it. About 10, I think it was 10% of that has to be spent specifically on Paris. And we do have until next school year to spend it down. Okay. Any additional questions on that? Okay, we Blanca did look at some potential dates. How about June 3rd for another governance council meeting in order to review and finalize the LCAP, and we can also look at the ELO plan again.
Works for me.
Good, yeah, works for me.
Time, yeah. 4 to 5.
Tim, so you'll send the ahead of time so we can look at it and, okay.
Yes.
Okay, with that, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
I
Second.
second.
Thank you, Derek.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you all. We will send out that notice for the June 3rd meeting, focusing just on the LCAP and the ELO.
Good evening, everyone. Okay.
All right, see you guys later.
Bye.
So Blanca, can you send that meeting out tomorrow for the June 3rd so everyone has it and has a hold on that?
Yes, I'll go ahead and send that. I'll actually send it out now, but then Phil will send the attachment out so I can placeholder it for 4 o'clock, June 3rd.
Yeah.
Let